Welcome to the Pulpit Porch, previously known as the Small Church Podcast. I'm Tony Marr, and with me is my friend Robert Kell.
Hey everyone, we're glad you're here. The Pulpit Porch is where we kick back, put up our feet, and talk about real life stuff of ministry, faith, community, and maybe a little sports and pop culture.
Yeah, if you're expecting a perfectly polished sermon, you're probably in the wrong place.
We're more about those honest heart-to-heart conversations, like the ones you'd have on the front porch with friends. Sometimes we stay on track, and sometimes we take the scenic route.
That's half the fun, isn't it? Here we tackle the highs, the lows, and the in-betweens of church and of life. Every now and then, we'll welcome a few friends to the front porch and share stories and ideas that might just change the way that you see things.
So whether you're a pastor, a church leader, or just someone who loves the church, pull up a chair, grab some sweet tea, and let's dive in. Welcome to the Pulpit and Porch. We've got a seat waiting for you.
It's a beautiful day to be on the porch.
It is today. I think the last couple of weeks we've talked about all the crazy weather and all this stuff. And today I think it's literally going to be like 70 degrees.
I love it.
I know you do.
That's Christmas time to me.
It's messing with my my sinuses and allergies and all this other stuff. I think I went to bed at like 9 o'clock last night and just cut the alarm off. Like I think I almost had to be woken up to make it to the podcast on time, and we don't record that early. I think it was just like it's just like running. Not a fever that anybody would call a fever, but with where my temperature sits, like it was just, I was beat to death, and it's all this weather and it is killing me.
That's good for you, my friend.
No,
it's good for you to get some
rest. I'm good with the other stuff. I'm not so much, but yes, it is a gorgeous day outside. Like almost, probably it's too hot for a hoodie type weather.
I got to tell you how happy this weather makes me, because I have vacation rental properties.
Yeah, you do.
And last year, this time, I was panicking. Last year, on Christmas Eve, we were running around trying to find quartz space heaters. In every department store, every hardware store that you could find, trying to find them, because we could not. The temperatures were down in the single digits. And I had guests in my cabins that were paying an awful lot of money to be there to celebrate Christmas and New Year's. And we couldn't get the temperatures up. And it was a nightmare. Literally on Christmas Eve, I'm running around to Lowe's and Home Depot and trying to find any quartz heaters that I could, and then figuring out how I'm going to make a run on Christmas Eve up to Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, to drop these things off to keep my guests warm. And this year I went and looked ahead at the temperature and saw that, what we're going to be facing over the course of the next couple of weeks. Like, I'm going to be able to just relax and enjoy. And right now I'm knocking on wood to make sure that everything stays that way. For me, growing up in Las Vegas, Christmas was 70s, and which was cold. That was set, man. You hit a 6 in the first digit of your temperature. I'm loving this. Feels like home.
I want snow for Christmas. I want a white Christmas.
Nope.
I want it to be in the 30s.
The only white Christmas I want is Bing Crosby singing.
No, I love that too, but I want it cold. I want Christmas. I love 4 seasons. I love where we live, and because of that, and because I've lived in places where you get like a season and part of another one, and this is it.
So we've dated ourselves already in the first 3 minutes of this episode.
I don't care.
That this episode won't air until after Christmas, but we are recording it before Christmas, and this episode's going to air right in that space between Christmas and New Year's. So right before we hit
it's
the
like
New
a
Year.
week and a half out, though. Like it's like a week and a half from when it drops. It's not that far away.
We're not that far away.
No.
Yeah. But I want
I'm not getting together. You don't want to. I will. I don't care.
I want to preemptively
get together
ask you
on
how
Christmas
was your
Day.
Christmas and all that, but you don't know yet. You can't see that far.
I have no clue. It's fine. We're going to go see my sisters, and it's our first Christmas without mom, and we're going to navigate some of those things and just kind of learning a new normal, and that's not always fun. Our Thanksgiving is nuts. I mean, it was 2 or 2:30 before I even got home from helping pack and deliver meals and all those things on Thanksgiving. So I didn't get to see my family over Thanksgiving. And they all got together, they had a blast, and that's awesome. And I missed them and a lot of things. But one of my nieces has got a new boyfriend, and so I'm excited to meet him. And my other niece and nephew both married, and one of them's got a couple of kids, and a third one on the way. And so I'm always excited to see family and see our family growing and that kind of stuff. And so we get a chance to do some fun things there. And we did something different this year, though, and I'm excited to see how this goes. So you'll have to remember to ask me, because I'll forget to talk about it. We were sitting around the other day doing Advent, and the video we were watching on Advent as a family just had some funny stuff about TikTok people who go in and do their Christmas haul, and they talk about all these things and stuff like that. And just a long conversation led to, we were like, we should set like a $15-$20 limit. Everybody take $15-$20, and we go to like Five Below or Dollar Store, and we draw names. And you get one person and you spend $15-$20 on them, and you just have to, like, what can you do to kind of meet that person? Like, to just do something fun at a pretty low price. And we ended up, what should have taken like 30 minutes took like almost 3 hours at Five Below. Because we were in there one person at a time. And so the rest of us are at Mardell's and Ross and all these things. And then when you're out, you bump into people and you're talking and all this other stuff. And so I'm pretty pumped about that. The boys are really excited. And they've all feel like, hey, we've done a good job for the name we got. And so I got our middle son, which he doesn't listen to this podcast, so I don't mind saying, and it won't run until after it's all over anyway. And so I'm pretty pumped about that, and I'm excited to see. He wanted games and Legos and stuff like that, and of course, Five Below doesn't sell real Legos, but I got some fun Lego things for him to put together, and a couple little games and some M&Ms and a few other odds and ends and stuff like that. And so I think it'll be good.
Do you have any other strange, quirky Christmas traditions?
No, I'm when I ask this question to you, I think what's going to be the rest of the episode. But we go out every year. We make hot chocolate. Melissa prints off I said this the last year as well, but prints off a sheet of like a scavenger hunt, and we go look at lights in the neighborhood. I'll complain about lights here in a minute.
We're doing that tonight, actually.
A scavenger hunt thing?
Well, not a scavenger hunt, but just going around looking at lights.
Yeah. You could come by Northridge for a little bit. Where it's a Springbrook campus. We're going to be doing our youth Christmas thing, and I'm playing bass in that.
All right.
So there you go. That's what you want to do. You want to waste your time watching me play bass. We do puzzles every year. We'll see how that goes this year, as one kid's deep into a music degree, and other one's doesn't necessarily love puzzles, but he's the only one with free time, and the other one is just consumed with other things in his life as well. So our family's great. I don't want to act like, we spend a ton of time together, but sitting down and doing puzzles for, usually it's about this. Christmas is on a Wednesday. We would start puzzles probably Sunday afternoon before that Wednesday. And we won't have a dining room table until sometime in January. And we might do 3-4 puzzles during that time. So it's a lot. And last year we did like a 3,000 or 4,000 piece, like Darth Vader puzzle or something, like Star Wars thing. And that took that was a hard puzzle. But yeah, so those are kind of our things. We go see my family. We do dinner at Waffle House with Melissa's mom at some point in time throughout Christmas. It's kind of our time with her. And yeah. So what about you?
We have a bunch.
I was going to say, I knew this was like, you all just kick back, relax, get a notepad. This will be a good time for you to, go get some coffee or whatever and get some ideas. Here you go.
Yeah, we have a lot. Used to, when I was a kid growing up, we would
we're going way back.
We're going way back.
I didn't do any of those. I just did current.
Every afternoon, evening of Christmas, we would go to the movies. And there's always some big blockbuster that came out on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or something like that. We saw all the Lord of the Ring movies because they all came out on Christmas. And that was just a family tradition. My mom used to my parents did, every year we did a birthday present for Jesus at Christmas time. And we would find someone that we knew in our community that needed something, that was underprivileged, that had a specific need, and we would do something for them. And it was a birthday present for Jesus and celebrating his birthday. And that tradition was always really special to me, although I didn't understand it when I was younger. We had one year, all I wanted for Christmas was a leather jacket. All my friends got leather jackets, and I wanted a leather jacket. And so I begged for a leather jacket. I was putting pictures of leather jackets inside the TV guide and doing the old, Ralphie thing in Christmas Story and putting the Red Ryder BB gun ads in places where I knew mom and dad would find it. Our tradition every year on Christmas Eve was we would go to candlelight Christmas Eve service. We would go to a neighborhood. I think I talked about this last year on our show, that we would go to candlelight Christmas Eve service. Then we would go to this neighborhood in Las Vegas called Hondo Court that the neighborhood did. It was the most incredible lights extravaganza for the 80s that you could have back then. And we would get out and we would walk around while my mom would go home and get started on Christmas Eve dinner. And then we'd make it back home and you'd smell dinner as you walked in, and we'd have this incredible prime rib dinner on Christmas Eve. And this year, something different happened, that my mom said she was going to take us to Hondo Court after church. Like, no, that doesn't make sense. It's not the way that this works. This isn't the tradition. This isn't how this happens. And so my mom took us and my dad left, and we got home, and there was a stranger in our house. There was a guy that I didn't know, and it's Christmas Eve, and you don't mess with Christmas Eve. I mean, I am a traditionalist, and even at this age, I am just a traditionalist. I'm like, hold on. You're not my dad. You're not my mom. You're not my brother. You shouldn't be here. And
he the Wet Bandits.
No, he was with my dad. He was sitting on the couch talking with my dad, and he didn't look like the people that I was used to being in our house on a regular basis. He was covered in tattoos and had long hair and had earrings, and he didn't fit what the image of what I thought having a guest for Christmas Eve dinner would look like. And so as soon as we walked in the door, I was put off by the fact that this stranger is sitting on my couch on Christmas Eve. And then my mom goes and gets him a glass of her homemade eggnog, non-alcoholic, of course. And she brought this guy one before me. I loved that eggnog. And then she says, dinner's ready. And we go, and he's sitting at our dinner table, and he's having prime rib with us, and he's having Yorkshire pudding with us, and he's having all of these things with us. And I can't enjoy my Christmas Eve meal because there's this stranger here that's sitting at our table, and he's talking so much. And then after dinner is over, my mom leaves and goes into the kitchen and comes out with a birthday cake, because we would sing happy birthday to Jesus. It was our family tradition. And this guy's looking all weird, like, what are you doing singing happy birthday? It's Christmas Eve. And then my dad leaves and comes back with this box that's wrapped up in Christmas wrapping paper, and he gives it to this guy. And he's looking all weird. And my mom explains to him that every year we do a Christmas present for Jesus, and that he gets and I'm starting to put two and two together. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And this guy opens the present, and he pulls it out, and he pulls out this beautiful leather jacket, which is exactly what I wanted for Christmas. And this guy has it. And I'm like, oh, I think you got the wrong present, Mom. I think that you grabbed the wrong one for the birthday present for Jesus. And I can remember Christmas night, my dad sitting down with me and talking to me about the guy who was our guest that night before, and that he didn't have a place to live. And he slept on the streets and was cold, and what this jacket meant to him. And that whole idea of a birthday present for Jesus. And I look back now with kids of my own and think of the things that my parents did that were traditional for us then, that meant so much in the spirit of the season for us back then, and saying, what are the traditions that we have now that mean so much to us, but what meaning do they really have? What change are they really having? And so when we talk about traditions and things that are important to us, I love to think back on those things that my parents instilled, that yeah, they are great memories, but they really mattered. They really meant something. We've started the last couple of years doing the Advent wreath with our kids.
Yeah.
And each week doing a little family devotional and lighting a candle and reading through verses together, and print out papers for each of the kids to read verses. And things that I want to instill in my kids when they're older, that they can say, sure, we loved going and looking at lights. We loved going to Dollywood and doing all these things. But what are the things that I think back and remember from Christmas and seasons with my family that really mattered? The things that touched us and molded and shaped us as people into the adults and the humans that we are today. And so, yeah, I think that there are so many traditions that we have out there, but what are the ones that really are meaningful and impact people in who they are and what they're all about?
Yeah, it's there's things that we did when I was a kid that have, somewhat just gone away in my life because I don't live necessarily close to where my family was. It's not something I can do. I have a spouse and other things happen and life happens and things kind of go that changes our ability to get from point A to point B. And so a lot of those things some things that are really big in your life as you're growing up, sometimes kind of go away, and they're kind of cool traditions, but yeah, trying to, I think that we did start Advent 2 or 3 years ago as well. And, I just grew up in a world where that felt very,
High church.
Yeah. And my parents would have even probably talked about it from an angle of not really something that we should be doing, as, just not focused in a direction that we should be, not something that, in our faith system that we would have done. And so, so Melissa and I have really tried to lean in more to that. We sit with our boys in those conversations. We do this past Sunday when we were doing it and having the conversation and stuff. The conversation got so good and so many other things and all the stuff that we were doing. And then we ended up kind of dispersing from the table pretty quickly to go do this gift thing that we forgot to light the candle. Melissa came back and was like, we didn't light the candle. And I said, I think Jesus will still make it. It'll be all right. Don't get so distracted by the candle not getting lit and that you miss the
but
good.
He's the light of the world.
He is. And I think he's going to be the light of the world, regardless of whether what was that, another white candle, or was that a pink one this week? I don't remember. But anyway, all of that to say, I really enjoy those types of traditions and things that we've started and do from there. So
I love my mom is not a cooker. She's not a baker, nothing like that. My grandmother was, and we would get every year at Christmas time, my grandmother would send us a box of her cookies. And it was this assortment of cookies that probably 6, 7 different types of cookies. And we each had our favorite. And when it would come in the mail, it was, which I don't even know how you ship cookies, whole bunch of fresh baked homemade cookies. It was better than Christmas, because these things would come a week or so before Christmas, and we'd open it up and smell the way that it smelled when that cardboard box would first break open, and all the parchment paper that was inside that separated the different types of cookies. But my mom never baked anything. Nothing. My mom was not, she doesn't bake. She doesn't cook. She makes Chex Mix, homemade Chex Mix. That's about all that she does. And my wife, Amanda, loves to bake. Our kitchen right now is a disaster area because she loves to bake things, but she does it. She will bake all of these different cookies and candies and all this different stuff that she makes, and then puts them in these containers and then goes and gives them out to people. And I love her heart and generosity that she wants to do something for people. And so oftentimes I don't like it as much because I would rather eat it all myself, and she's making it all for others. And like, come on, can you at least hold some back for us? And she does hold some back for us, but she also wants a skinny Santa. And and so I love her heart in that, and just the feeling of every year having her and the kids, when this year was a little bit harder because the girls aren't home, now. And so she was I tried to be in the kitchen with her, helping her with some of that. And I'm not as good of company with baking as the girls are. But I love these little things that happen every year, that, it's that time of year when these things start to happen. And if they have meaning, it's even more meaningful, I guess, if they have meaning.
So You and I both, and I think everybody listening, when you ask that question, like, what's your traditions, they kind of lean into this space of, man, there's these things that people are reflecting on. Hey, our family got together. We have this big party. We do all these things. Like we used to go to the Bristol Lights a lot, but it's $65 a car now to go through that. And that's a lot of money.
Are you serious, or are you just exaggerating?
No,
right
I'm being
now?
very serious.
It's $65 a car
for a car like you and I have with up to 8 people in it. Once you get to 9 to something else and you get to like a church van or something like that, it's like $85. And then if you have a bus, it's like $120 or something along those lines.
$65 to drive your car through the thing?
In 1998, and again, this is dating 97 at Thanksgiving, I was home, wasn't dating Melissa at this point in time, and kind of one last date with this girl that I had, everybody thought I was going to marry, and we ended up going to the lights. I think I paid $12 or $15 in 1998.
I thought it was like $12, and if you got the coupon from Food City, it was 10.
Like 10 or 8 or something like that. And so like I went to that, and that was the first time I'd ever been to the lights. And so I mean, it's crazy to me how much that's gone. So anyway, there's a lot of traditions. Sometimes
Hold on, you're serious, $65.
Yeah, you can Google it when we finish the episode.
I'm Googling it right now. This is why we need a staff that can do all this stuff for us.
I'll wait to transition us into today's topic then while Tony looks, because as soon as I get us to what we're talking about today, it's going to be interrupted with, are you kidding me? $65. We literally, Melissa looked this up the other day as we were driving. It's fun, by the way. It's for a great cause. And if you have that kind of money and you live close, or if you don't get to go see anything and you're going, I thought about driving there before, I highly recommend it. It's an absolute blast. When you get to you get to drive around the track. When you get into the infield, you can
buy your tickets online.
Yeah. Don't think you save any money doing that.
A one-car ticket for tonight, you can get in for $35.
I don't know what they were looking at there. Maybe it was just the day we were going.
Weekends are a little bit more expensive.
So maybe it was a weekend that we were driving by.
So a van is $70.
Tonight?
Yeah. A van is $70.
So we were probably on a weekend when we were driving by and they clicked on it, and we thought about, should we go do this later? But it was.
So for all of you out there that had plans to go to Bristol Motor Speedway for Speedway and Lights to support Speedway Children's Charities, and you heard $65 and you canceled your plans can be back on now, because you can get in. You can drive your single family car up to 8 passengers for only $40.
40. Yeah.
Now, if you had said to me before the segment started, or at the beginning of the segment, if you had said, I just called it a segment. See, we're professional podcasters. If you had said at the beginning of the segment, Bristol Motor Speedway now costs you $40 to get in, I would have said, $40? You've got to be kidding me. It's $40. But you said $65. And so now that I hear $40, I'm like, that's a deal. $40, I'm taking 3 cars.
And it was, like I said, it must have been a weekend, probably a Saturday. We were checking it out as we were driving somewhere.
A bus is $175. So if you're taking, and I don't know if they include any bus, like if you have an old Volkswagen bus, the old surfer buses, if that's going to be $175, or if any of you drive a school bus and you just want to go rolling in your Greyhound, it's going to cost you $175. And I wouldn't think that would do very well on the high banks of the world's fastest half mile.
So, okay, I see where that's the fast lane. That's my wife. Like, that's how you skip, because the line's like 3 hours. The fast lane is $65, $85 for a van, and a bus is $150.
You're those people that
no, I'm not.
When you go to Dollywood, you get the skip the line pass.
No, we are not those people. There's also a calendar. The prices vary by day. It is more expensive and less expensive on certain days. You can see all that there. Vans are $60, buses are $150. So sorry about that confusion, but we were right. It just, my wife, I was driving. I was just taking people's words for it. But the
some
fast
days
lane,
you can get in for $20.
$20, just like 4 days throughout the entire season that you can do that. 25 Mondays and Tuesdays. You can go.
I owe you a public apology right here on the Pulpit Porch podcast that the fast lane pass is $65.
I owe Bristol an apology, because that would have been really bad if you'd have just taken my word for it and we would have gone through. So, and I love Bristol. I still have my Bristol coat on today. I love those guys. So
yes, Robert Kell was correct that if you would like to skip the wait on a busy night at Speedway at Lights, you can grab a ticket to the fast lane. Passes are per vehicle, not per individual, and it is $65 for a car.
$65 for a car. And honestly, like the wait is ridiculous.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing here?
We have spiraled. Hey, so with that, a lot of good traditions,
Merry Christmas.
A lot of fun things.
Merry Christmas.
Do we just end here and tell everybody to have a great day?
No way. This has been one of the best episodes that we've ever done. So we have talked about some of our favorite, most meaningful Christmas traditions. And maybe there's some more that'll pop into your mind as we keep this conversation going. But what about New Year's? Because we've got New Year's. When this episode ends, we're going to be just a couple days from New Year's. And so maybe there's some things that our listeners would love to do instead of reflecting back on what they now hope to do in 360 days. We can talk about what they can maybe do in 24 hours, 48 hours.
I feel like you wear and carry all of these traditions so deeply, and you have so many traditions for everything. I feel like a random Tuesday in June, you have a tradition that you just need to be a part of and you want to do. And that's a good thing. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
That it's difficult to live with me. It's true.
I've heard there's counseling a lot throughout the year for everyone else. So I would say a few years ago, our lives changed with New Year's Eve. For a bunch of years, when I was just doing the creative stuff, we worked with a nonprofit that was doing their big fundraiser. They do a New Year's Eve gala. And so we did photos, video, ton of stuff for them. And we were literally there from 6 or 7 o'clock in the afternoon, evening until 1 or 2 in the morning. And so that's how Melissa and I brought in the new year. The boys were at home asleep. As they got a little bit older during that time, they would stay up and be awake or sleep on the couch when we got home, but it's not just in bed. A few years ago, I guess COVID that didn't happen. We were looking to make some kind of shifts anyway. And so we started this like movie and charcuterie night for several years. And then last year it kind of took another step and we started just hanging out with some friends. And so we go do karaoke and play some games and just have a good time. And that is kind of what we do.
Good. That's fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. And I don't
You've never invited us, but
well, last year was the first time. And then that we did the other thing. And then 2 years ago, I don't know that I knew you. I don't know that we'd met a time or two, but I don't know that you or I, either one, would have been going, hey, let's invite this stranger to come get my leather coat to the New Year's Eve thing. And so, yeah.
Are you Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve with Ryan Seacrest, or are you Carson Daly on ABC, or are you CNN or ESPN watching Evel Knievel's son jump over fountains at Caesar's Palace?
I really like this is a tension for me in the fact of I don't really care a ton. Most of the time I'm in bed before that even remotely happens. And so I typically bounce based on the artist. Last year we spent a lot of time on the country one. It was really good. Leonard Skinner was playing a bunch of old songs, and they brought out some really good artists and had a good time there. And that was probably more my speed. I think Morgan Wallen was singing on top of some restaurant in Nashville, and they just kept bouncing between locations and doing things. It was weird. I think Rob Schneider's daughter was actually emceeing and hosting, was one of the hosts, and then Rob actually came out. And I'm going, I feel like you're just on the wrong show altogether. But yeah, some of the songs and the portrayal of them just It is what it is. Everybody gets to live their life and do what they want to do. It just wasn't my jam. Wasn't something I wanted to sit and listen to and watch. And so I would bounce between different shows. What about you?
Last year we had all the kids invited friends over, and we had a bunch of.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Full
now.
of teenagers, and my wife loves those moments. Drives me crazy because it's chaos, but she loves it, and she plans everything and makes great food and has games planned for the whole night, and it's. She does a wonderful, wonderful job with that. And we had the TV on Ryan Seacrest and the countdown going and all of that. And so then we're playing games and there's all this energy in the house. Then we get to 5 minutes beforehand and everyone gathers in the living room around the TV because we want to watch the ball drop and ring in the New Year's. And she has the sparkling apple cider and all of that ready to go. And we're sitting there and it's getting closer and closer. And I'm watching on my watch. I'm like, man, we're under a minute and Ryan's still interviewing Mariah Carey. What's happening here? I'm like, well, hold, the ball's still way up high. What is going on here? And then 12 o'clock comes, 12:01, 12:02, 12:03. I'm like, what is happening? Are we in the Twilight Zone? And then it hits me that we stream everything and our IP address had us in Nashville. So our TV thought it was only 11 o'clock. We missed the whole thing. Everyone was so mad with it.
That would be a lot to get. That'd be funny.
Ruined a New Year's. Ruined the whole thing.
That's funny. Yeah, no, we I don't know that New Year's was ever that big of a deal. I probably early in student ministry, I think that we did lock-ins. And so that was a big part of our life. And then I got out of that as quick as I could. Not student ministry, but out of lock-ins. Those things are the devil. But
whoever thought it was a great idea to put a bunch of adolescents in a church building, lock the doors, deprive them of sleep when their bodies desperately need sleep, and give them free run of the church.
The last one I ever did, we did a huge sign up. We had this whole thing, and I don't even remember all that we were doing. I had a ton of leaders, and I probably had 30 leaders, and I thought we're going to have about 60 or 70 kids here, and this will be good. I had parents. Like, this thing exploded. Well, I don't remember what we did. We had some weird, I think we were playing like Gladiator. We had people standing on stage with in our gym with people running behind obstacles, and we were throwing tennis balls at them and stuff, trying to get people out of it was this huge, we were giving away stuff and things. We ended up having like 110, 115 kids. We had parents that were knocking on the door at 1 a.m. going, my kid won't leave me alone. I want to go to bed. Can they come in? And that was what we were dealing with. And I was like, I'm going out on a high. That's how I'm ending. That was my last lock in. And I think that was literally 17 years ago. So, but yeah, we did lock-ins early on with student ministry, and it was fun, and kind of brought in the new year, and it was a good time, and just tried to set some traditions and some thoughts for the year. But yeah, I don't do a whole lot.
We did a church lock-in for New Year's Eve one year when I was in high school, and it wasn't really a lock-in. It was more of a church party, more of a church youth group party at the youth pastor's house. And as we're getting close to midnight, me and a group of my friends thought that it would be a great idea if right at the stroke of midnight, we went streaking around our youth pastor's neighborhood to ring in the new year. And of course, we didn't tell our youth pastor this because, I don't know that any youth pastor would give the thumbs up to a group of teenage boys stripping off all their clothes and running around in his neighborhood naked. And maybe doesn't go over too well with the HOA or with the church elders when they find out about it. And so we didn't tell them. We had it all planned. And then right as the clock struck midnight, me and about 8 of my friends just got down to our skivvies. We did keep our underwear on, and we took off running around his neighborhood. Now, it was an exceptionally cold winter in Las Vegas, and there was actually frost.
It's like 68 degrees.
There was frost on some of the ground, and there was ice on windshields. And one of my friends decided he thought it would be really fun as we're running around screaming like a bunch of idiots at 12:05 a.m. on January 1st. He thought that it would be fun to run a car. I don't know if you ever ran a car, but you run up the hood, up the windshield, and cross the the roof and then down the back and down the trunk and then jump off. And he thought, and we're barefoot running through the street. He thought this would be hilarious to run up a car, just a random car parked on the side of the street. So he runs up the car and we're all running and twirling our shirts around our heads. He runs up the car, hits the windshield that was covered in ice and slipped and hit his head on the hood of the car, knocked him cold. And so we're sitting there, 12 o'clock a.m., freezing cold, nothing but our underwear, and our friend is knocked out cold on the hood of a stranger's car. And we're trying to think, all right, what do we do? So we just left him. We just left him and ran back to our youth pastor's house. And they're like, where's Matt? We're like, we have no idea where Matt is. And 15 minutes later, he comes wandering back in all dizzy and said, I woke up on the hood of a car. What happened? It was a good New Year's Eve.
To my favorite John Wayne quote, life's hard enough. It's harder when you're stupid.
That's that. Man, I should get that as a bumper sticker.
Yeah. So no, I've never ran a car. I feel like that's just like a damaged car waiting to happen in my.
I have enough of those. I don't need any more.
My
dad
would have killed me. Yeah, I was too scared.
A few years ago, my wife wanted to do something really special for us. We're a blended family. And so we had this New Year's Eve. We didn't have any of our kids and we were kind of depressed about this. And so she surprised me with this New Year's Eve date. And she didn't tell me what we were doing, but she hands me this envelope. She says, you're going to open this later. And we get in the car and she tells me where to drive. It becomes pretty evident that we're driving to Pigeon Forge. And so we get to Pigeon Forge. She said, keep on going. And so we drive up, we get to Gatlinburg and she says, find a place to park. We get to Gatlinburg and she says, now open your card. And she'd bought a gift card to the Melting Pot restaurant. Have you ever been to the Melting Pot?
I love that place.
I'd never been to the Melting Pot. She'd been to the Melting Pot before.
I've only been once, but it's fun.
I'd never been to the Melting Pot. Really cool. If you've never been, it's a fondue place. Yeah. Really cool experience.
Some people say fondant, but I like fondue. I thought it was fun. Yeah,
it was great. And so she'd gone onto their menu. She knows what I like to eat. I'm a very picky eater. And so she'd gotten $100 gift card. Figured $50 a person for us to get what we want.
So one of you all got to eat, the other one watched.
$50 a person should be good. She went on, she checked everything out. She knew what we were going to do. It was all planned out. And so we parked. It is freezing cold. And we park and we walk, and she'd made reservations for us because you had to have reservations on New Year's Eve. She'd made reservations. We had some time beforehand. So we walked around the streets of Gatlinburg on New Year's Eve. And then we get to the Melting Pot about 15 minutes before our reservation. And there's a big sign on the front of the door that says New Year's Eve menu. And they had a special New Year's Eve menu. You could only get one thing. They didn't have their regular menu. It was this special like 12-course meal that they had. And it was like $120 a person. And our gift card is only for $100. But we have these reservations and it's going to cost way more than this. And my wife is so amazing, but she's so conscious of just money and responsibility and all this. And she started to get emotional and like started to cry. And she's like, I planned this whole big night. I wanted to take you someplace you'd never been before. I got the gift card and I didn't know that they were doing this special menu. And so we actually went in and asked the like maitre d', can you get off of the regular menu? It said, no, tonight it's only the special menu. This is what it has to be. And so we walked back out and she's like, we're not doing it. This is ridiculous. We'll come back another time. And I said, no, we're going to do that. She said, Tony, it's going to cost us $250 to go to dinner. And that's with a gift card. Like we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And so we go and we decide to do this. We're already there and we already had the reservation. And so we go in and it is this amazing, amazing experience. We have this little tiny private booth just for ourselves that has this big window that overlooks the Gatlinburg skyline, and we can see the Gatlinburg Space Needle. Just an amazing, amazing evening. It's right before they bring out the dessert part, and Amanda says, I'm going to go use the restroom. And so she gets up and she goes, and 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by, 15 minutes goes by. The person has brought out the dessert, and I'm like, do I eat it or do I wait on her? I mean, I don't want to be rude and eat without her here, but I mean, this looks really good.
Yeah, their desserts are amazing.
So I'm like, just one little dip, before you know it, it's almost gone. I'm like, great, I'm dead. And our waiter comes back and he's like, is everything okay? Do you need anything else? I'm like, yeah, I'm getting a little worried about my wife. A few minutes later, she comes back and her eyes are bloodshot. She's been crying profusely. She's got tears streaming down her face. I'm like, what just happened? And she says, I need a manager now. When she went into the bathroom, some teenagers came in and opened up mace in the bathroom, or pepper spray or something. And there were a couple of ladies in there that were using the bathroom. And these teenagers came in and just let off canisters of pepper spray or mace and maced them all. And so my wife comes back and the manager comes out and she's like, something's going on. The manager goes in and comes back and says the restrooms have to be shut down. And they go back and they look at video surveillance and they say that these two kids were playing a prank. And so they call the police and all this. Long story short, they comped our entire meal. Whole thing was free. My wife did not get to eat dessert because she was miserable, and we had to drive the entire way home with the windows down because her eyes and nostrils and chest and everything were filled with pepper spray, and she was burning. And so I've got the heat on full blast on my side, and she's sticking her head out the window to try to cool her senses down. But we got a $250 meal from Melting Pot completely for free. Still had the $100 gift card to use for another time, and got a great story to tell. Very memorable New Year's Eve.
That is a story. And yeah, I don't even know what to say. I can't believe I haven't heard that before.
That's a good one. You have to ask her about that next time. Ask her if she likes the Melting Pot.
I'm good. Have y'all been back yet? Did you use the gift card?
I've never been back. No.
That's funny. Yeah, I'd be using the gift card before it goes bad.
The manager even paid for our parking out of his wallet, because you had to pay for parking in Gatlinburg. And he even pulled out and gave us cash to pay for our parking. He felt so bad. So we've talked a lot the last week. And then this week we kind of got off track and have filled a whole episode talking about holiday traditions. What are some of the most meaningful for you, either Christmas or New Year's traditions that you've seen in the church?
We've talked about Advent. I think that over the last several years, Advent has become something that, as I've reflected in that more, has been big. I mean, you and I've talked about it, and I think you'll mention this. I enjoy attending. I don't love planning a New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve service. They're sometimes not always the easiest thing to kind of work around in my brain, I kind of some people love doing that and they're great at it, and it doesn't make, I guess, me right or them wrong or anything else. But I love Christmas Eve service. Is in that space. It's things continue to get easier and more complicated all at the same time. I've seen some moments where we have adopted families and put gifts and things together and then gone around as a church and singing carols and giving gifts and they're all wrapped in things, and the kids kind of get a Christmas. They get a moment of doing life that feels a little normal for them, and not just, maybe the hard that they face all the time when it comes to big seasonal or birthday type moments. And so, inside of the church, I love getting to reflect on the goodness of what the Father did. And I love, kind of, as your parents were talking, a gift for Jesus. And I know what you've done for the least of these, you've done for me. I think those two thoughts are probably the things that I've found to be the most meaningful. Christmas series. I know you love that and you feel very passionate about a Christmas series come and go. And at the end of the day, we tell a very, very, very important story. But I can talk 48 other weeks a year. I think that when we really live that out, something that's special.
Yeah. Thinking in full transparency to our listeners, this episode wasn't planned. As we sat here.
No, I tried twice to move us to the actual episode.
Yeah, and I just kept telling stories. But and we are called the Pulpit and Porch, and some of the most meaningful moments on the porch with your family and friends are just sitting telling stories.
Oh, we had you and I just got together for fun, having coffee. We actually had a couple things we wanted to talk about, and 2.5 hours later, you texted me later that day and it's just like, hey, I know we didn't accomplish anything we needed to. Well, not anything. We accomplished a couple things, but most of what we needed to accomplish, we didn't. But just telling stories and talking about life, and hey, here's some struggles in our family, and here's something I'm facing. And I mean, when I say struggles, I mean, it's not like the world's falling apart. It's just parenting older kids is hard. Adult kids, older teenagers, and we're both going through some phases of life that we've never gone through before, and we're navigating stuff and journeying, and yeah, those things are important. And so, like you said, that's what a porch is about. And who did we have on? Oh, it was Lowry.
Tim Lowry.
Tim. I was want to say Tom, and I was like, that is wrong, and my brain just went blank. And him talking about going across and sitting with friends, and you just kind of go, oh, hey, this is what we're doing, and just conversations start and they just go. And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. One thought that I had as we've been having this discussion that I want to kind of get your opinion on, and I know I'm just throwing this out of left field at you, is that the church, we talk a lot about don't go to church, be the church, right? Mm-hmm. That the church is not something that you go to. The church is something that you are a part of. The church is something that you go and do, not something that you go to. And I think most of our listeners out here would say that the church needs to be active. Jesus went to the people. Jesus didn't expect the people to come to him. Jesus was always moving. He didn't camp it in one spot and expect people to come to him, although everywhere he went, people flocked to him. In droves, people came to him. But he was constantly moving to where the need was. And we've talked a lot on this show about that. That's what the church needs to be. We need to not be a place where we expect people to come to us, but the church needs to be an active, moving thing that goes out to the needs and meets the needs of their communities around them. I think we do that really well in some areas. But as I think about Christmas, sure, we do the angel tree, we do Operation Christmas Child, that type of thing that are easy to grab a tag off of a tree and throw some presents in a box and drop it off at your church or at a location. But I remember back when I was a kid, even in middle school and high school, as a church, we did things where we would go out and serve the community. We even did things that there are some great traditions, talking about traditions this episode, that we would put groups of people together and we would go out caroling. And, the old, Hallmark Christmas movie caroling, that we would go and just show up on someone's front porch and sing Christmas carols to them. And then they'd open the door and they'd come and they'd sit for a while, and we get the opportunity to sit and talk to them, about their life, what was going on. And sometimes people would just listen and toss you a candy cane or clap for you, say, thank you so much, and move on to the next house. But I can remember many, many times where you'd sit there for 15, 20, 30 minutes and hear people's stories about what was going on in their lives and what they were celebrating or missing, or who was not around the table that Christmas, and what this meant to them. And I just don't see a lot of that anymore out of our churches. And maybe I'm missing it. And I'm not specifically talking caroling, because I don't see anybody caroling anymore, but I'm talking getting out of the church. So much of what we do around our Christmas season is we plan great Christmas Eve services and we expect people to come to those. We plan Christmas parties and we expect people to come to those. What are things that the church can do to get out into our community? And what are some other ways that you know of, that maybe you've experienced, that you've done in the past, where a church can get outside of his walls and not expect people to come to her, but get out and actually maybe have an impact on people that will not step foot through the doors of a church this Christmas season?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know that I've seen a ton. I think the caroling thing, I remember doing that some as I was growing up, maybe a teenager, early 20s, that kind of stuff. But
why does that not happen anymore?
I think there's a lot of reasons. I think we're a very we've talked front porch, back porch communities. I think we're very back porch, big fences. Like I want to live. I want to go in, lock my doors. I want a Ring camera. Everybody shut up when the doorbell rings. I want to know what's coming, what's not. And so I can look and see. And then if I don't want to talk to you, I just ignore you. And so I think there's a little bit of this oddness. I mean, people are so get off my lawn now, but like, I think you literally run a risk.
Christmas with the cranks.
Yeah. I mean, and Christmas with a shotgun in your face type stuff. I mean, depending upon where you're And I don't think that that has to be a neighborhood where it's kind of off the beaten path. I think you could have Christmas with a shotgun in your face if you're trying to carol in a really what would be considered fancy or, unique neighborhood. I think that you could kind of have some spaces there. I think too that we've moved inward in life. One of our conversations over the last few days, and I think we're going to be addressing some of this, is almost like a series potentially in January. We're still working through a couple of details, but in January, in AI and technology and just all that we do to kind of scroll on screens, I just think we've lost interaction with people. And so like we feel like that because we sent 3 GIFs and a meme that we've connected with someone.
And yet this time of year, more than any else, you've got people that are sitting around hurting, lonely, wishing for some sort of connection.
Yeah. And so I just don't know that, I mean, and I'm just being really transparent here. I just don't know that I or we all know how to really, how to always engage some of those things. I know how to sit with my friends. I've got a friend whose dad had a really big scare, and he's got some big changes coming up, but I think he's actually still in the hospital right now and just facing some real struggles and things with that. And so life's gonna be very different for them. They get to still be together, but there's gonna be a lot of changes coming in their life. And so like I sit with my friends really well, and I can be in that space and I can engage, but I've got well over a couple thousand friends. I'm air quoting that on Facebook, and I mean most of these people I haven't spoken to in maybe 20 years, and it's just somehow they saw me and I saw them. We clicked. Oh, hey, yeah, I'm sure this will be a great time for us to reconnect, and we'll never talk. And but it feels like this false sense of community. And I think there's a real genuine need inside of our country. I would say take faith out of it, but it is like Christianity, faith, following Jesus that drives the heart of community. I mean, like we were created to live in community with the Father and with each other. And so I just feel like there's this real missing point in that. And I don't know that I have a great answer. In some of our conversations this week, even of where I'm struggling as a leader, as a follower of Jesus, as a lot of different things and roles in my life, dad, husband, brother, all these different roles. How do you foster and create genuine community? And I think that's something that we're missing
in a season where we celebrate God coming to be with us.
Yeah.
I think the church is missing it a lot and expecting people to come to them.
Do you think though, Tony, and this is not the time to go like for another 40 minutes on this conversation, but do you think that the reality is that at least the American church was never, the scriptures never intended church to be what the American church has become? And
1,000%.
This gathering together is good, but it was always to encourage and equip to go out and do the ministry. I heard somebody recently say, it might have been you, and if it was, you can stop me. But we live in this world where we think Sunday morning is the ministry. I am in the ministry of leading worship. I'm in the ministry of preaching the gospel. I'm in the ministry of running sound. I'm in the ministry of working in children's ministry or student ministry or cafe or front door greeter or whatever. That is my ministry. But scripture continually says they came together to be encouraged and equipped to go out and do the work of the ministry.
Yeah, and I think if you look scripturally, and we've talked about this before on this show, that you look even going back to the Old Testament times, the tabernacle, the temple, the reason that people came to the church, the tabernacle, to the temple was to give their offering.
Yeah,
it was the purpose of it. It wasn't to come and what can I get out of this? It was to come and what can I give? And we've completely flipped that upside down to where now we go to church for what can I get out of it? And the conversations that we have in the car on our way home from church are, what'd you think of the message? Didn't do much for me today. What'd you think of the worship? I thought it was okay. I loved the song they did here. Didn't really care for this one. It's about what am I going to get from this, not what can I give?
Yeah.
And we've completely reversed what it was intended for. And then you look at the first century church, and it's exactly what you just said. It was the people coming together. Acts 2, right? Acts 2:42, devoted themselves to to prayer, to fellowship, to the apostles' teaching, to breaking of bread, and then to go out and tell the story of what they'd experienced in their life. It was all a place to equip them to go out and be the church. It wasn't something that you came to. It was something that you were a part of. And I couldn't agree with you more that we have completely, I think that if Jesus looking at the church today, the American, the Western church today, I think it looks nothing like what we're commanded to be and what he intended for it to be, what he intended his body to be.
And I have to say American church because all I can do is read about the others. I've not really traveled a ton. I mean, I've not traveled at all outside of continental U.S. and things. And so, I mean, I've been a few places here, so I don't have a real point of reference outside of a couple conversations and a few things. The show dogs are
they're back here in action. The body was created to move. The body was not created by the Creator to be sedentary. The body was not created. The body was not created to be paralyzed. And so often I think the church is a paralyzed body.
No, I agree. And I think that, the question for me then just starts to become, and this is stuff like, I know it's conversations we're going to continue to have and things is, based on the reflections of what God has done in my life and in ministry and in the church in 2024, how do I look at 2025 differently? And, I was sharing with you a few things even yesterday of just stuff that's on my heart that isn't going to be like every week I'm going to get up and teach this one verse. And when I see people get it, I'll move on to the next verse. But it's this underlying theme of, man, God has really spoke to me in the last couple of months of this year. And I see this hurt and I see this struggle in his people, in my life at times as well. And how do I make that a part of my actionable next steps when I'm preaching through this topic, this book of the Bible, this passage, this area of life, ministry, and just what people are going through? How do I step into this space and just say, hey, at the end of the day, A, B, and C lead to this. And this is where, here's the next step you can take. And so that for me, there's a couple of really, really, really specific things that God's called me to, I believe, in 2025. And I may fall flat on my face, but both of them move people towards a greater understanding of knowing the Father and a greater understanding of following him obediently, with less stress, less worry, less fear.
I look forward to discussing that with you on a future episode of the Pulpit and Porch.
Yeah, it's I'm excited. I really am. I'm pumped.
Robert Kell, you know what we've done? Do you know what we've done today?
We've had fun.
You know what else we've done today on the porch? Tim Lowry would be so proud. We just did the ladder to the moon.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it. We started our conversation talking about weather. Then we moved on to stories, personal stories that shared forever. And then at some point in the stories, the transition was made into deeper life, deeper meaning, and opening ourselves up personally into what we were looking for and hoping for in life. We just took a ladder to the moon.
Yeah, that's so good.
And that is all the time that we have for this edition of The Pulpit and the Porch. We want to thank you for joining us. We hope that you got something out of this nonsense that we've just spat at you for the last 55 minutes or so. We have enjoyed doing it and having these conversations. And ultimately, that's what the porch is all about, is having conversations that point people and guide people closer to Jesus. And we hope that we've done that a little bit today. We hope that we've given you some insights, some thoughts, some things to maybe think about, reflect on from this past Christmas season, and look forward to the next. We hope that you and your family have a very wonderful new year, great start to 2025, and we want to thank you again for being a part of our family here at the Pulpit and Porch. We want to encourage you to like, subscribe, listen, and share the Pulpit and Porch wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts with anyone that you come in contact with. And again, thank you for tuning in to this episode. Thank you for listening throughout the year, and we look forward to an exciting 2025 here on the Pulpit and Porch. And in final thoughts, remember, don't just go to church, go and be the church. Have a great new year.